Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, Matt Mallory from Meet the Pressers. It's Matt's maiden voyage as commentator here on the show. Matt, thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Got a lot of stories. First of all, before we get into that, I want to mention to everybody if you want to if you want to put your comment in about anything we're discussing, just comment on either the Facebook or YouTube live video. And as soon as I get your comment, I'll put your comment on the air. We'll discuss it. Or if you want to get your comment even quicker in, or if you're watching on OpsLens, you can tweet to Twitter with the hashtag Bullet Podcast. Now, on OpsLens, we are not live, but we'll get your comment in on the next broadcast. So, first story I want to talk about for the list of stories today, Matt. Maryland finally caved. Maryland said, look, Supreme Court said what the Supreme Court said. We've pretty much got to go shall issue, and they kind of did. They've removed the good and substantial reasoning from their legalese in the permitting process. My understanding is that they can still ask, they just cannot use that in their judgment for whether somebody is going to be issued a permit or not. So although it is still the sheriffs can still ask when you apply for your permit what your reason is. They just cannot use that reason in any part of their judgment.
Right. Yeah, it's God bless the governor for taking that step and moving forward. You know, he says he consistently supported the right of law-abiding citizens to own and carry firearms. You know, I don't know the guy, but when somebody says that, it sounds political, right? Because it's like if you consistently supported it, you would have given that directive well long time ago, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't have needed the Supreme Court to push you rather hard.
Exactly. Good and substantial reason.
Yeah, that
sounds a lot like New York's proper cause.
Yes, and New Jersey's exactly.
California.
The next, and speaking of California, we've got a comment in from George, one of our regular listeners or viewers in California. He says, "Hello from California, where gun owners get doxxed."
Oh yeah, that was bad. That's a New York reminiscent of New York when the SAFE Act passed.
Yeah.
You know about that?
I remember that, and there was the case in I don't remember what city, but there was a New York paper that published everybody in their city that had a concealed carry permit. And then the people that had concealed carry permits got a little upset with that, so they published everybody that worked for the paper, their home addresses, and the people that owned the paper didn't like that. So
yeah, I don't think I saw that part, but that's good for them. Give it right back to them.
Yeah, unfortunately, with the concealed carry permit holders in California, they can't really do, because we're not entirely the story hasn't come out as to who's really responsible for releasing all that information on the California concealed carry permit holders. So we don't know who to say, okay, this is their home address, and this, we don't know how to, turn the tables on them. So
wasn't the attorney general or whoever it was the spokesperson about that? Didn't they say something to the effect of, we didn't mean to do it? Yet just prior to that, they said something like we meant to do something, and then they contradicted themselves.
Yeah, it was supposed to be
hearing some on that.
All about openness and transparency in firearms ownership. Well, they went a little bit too transparent, if you ask me.
And then, oops, once the heat started coming down, oops.
Yeah, exactly. And it took them. It took them almost. It took them 36 hours from the time the website went live to shut it down. So for 36 hours, if you had a concealed carry permit, your birth date, your home address, all that stuff was out there.
Sensitive information. Right, sensitive information. Very sensitive information to be used for identity theft and other things. I mean, that's stuff you definitely tell people not to put out there, not let people know. Yeah, it's reminiscent of New York and both California and New York with the whole Britney Spears song, right? Oops, I did it again. You just keep doing stuff again, over and over and over. And one of the good citizens of New York and California going to stand up.
You know, at some point, you've got to wonder when the people are going to have enough and say, look, the people that are running this is just a something show. I would use
Mm-hmm.
another word, but I like to keep my shows family friendly. So,
For
but we've
sure.
got to get rid of the people that are running this. They've had it for 20, 30, 40, in California's case, almost 50 years. It's time to
Mm-hmm.
go another direction. At some point, the people are going to have to make a turn.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's kind of pushed, especially in New York. There's a lot of people are saying they're just going to move out of New York now because of the stuff that's happening here with the new law that was signed in Friday, this past Friday. But there's still a lot of people that are upset about it, especially the good thing in New York. And I don't mean to get off on New York because I know we want to talk about it a little bit, but they're they're infuriating everybody because they've made it pretty much illegal to carry anywhere now unless there's a sign posted on private property saying you can carry there. So even people that have had unrestricted license forever, whoever they are, judges, politicians, Hollywood, all of them, none of them are exempt. The only one that are exempt are people like me in law enforcement or security guards, armed security guards, while they're working at a job armed.
So let's get, because you are like Dan was, who was on yesterday. You're a New Yorker, and
Mm-hmm.
you're heavily involved in the political process there. You're active, like I think most people should be, uh,
I
and
try.
you're
I try.
very familiar with this. You've got to turn over 3 years worth of
Mm,
social media accounts if you want a concealed carry permit in New York State now. That
yeah,
seems totally egregious to me, but
for
we were
sure.
talking pre-show and you were saying it was going to be worse originally.
It was. So I went down to just before COVID. I went down and met with 7 different political offices to talk to them about some bills that they were putting forward, and I really wanted to try to educate them because that was my biggest fear is that they just were uneducated on the subjects. One of them was Senator Parker's office, New York State Senator Parker, and I met with his legal aid, and they crafted a bill that was going to make you mandatorily turn over all of your usernames and passwords for all of your social media accounts for them to look at all the posts that you've made public and private and see if you're mentally capable of having any firearm. We know that they're going after our Second Amendment, right? And they're going to use our First Amendment to get to our Second Amendment because God forbid we say anything that they don't agree with. But by the time I left her office, she said they were going to remove that part from the bill because I said you're putting extra stress on New York State troopers who were there, were going to make the ones look at it and make the decision. You're infringing on people's First Amendment rights, and the likelihood of somebody posting something on there, or by the time that the troopers get to looking at it, it's either too late or they're not going to post it on there. Sure, there's active killers. Not, I don't call them active shooters. I call them active killers.
Right.
There's some active killers that actually will post that stuff, and we've had some recently, but the major majority of them don't always do that. And it was just the big thing was going to tax the New York State troopers. So what do? 3 years of social media accounts, and you got to turn it over to the local licensing officer. So instead of taxing New York State troopers, they got rid of the password and username aspect, but username, right? You got to do that. But now the judges in upstate and the law enforcement in New York City and Long Island have to look at all that stuff prior to issuing a pistol license. Unfunded mandate, and the local municipalities and counties are ticked off.
Well, and I wonder how long it's going to take. Let's say somebody, I would say moderately active on social media. I will post
Yeah,
something
same
every few days. Um, but I know people that'll post 8, 9, 10 things a day.
day. I can't
And
do
to go
that.
through all of that, I mean, goodness, it's going to take, for
Right,
somebody, it's going to take several days to go through just the
yep,
social media accounts.
for sure.
So
Yeah. And
permits are going to be coming out at a snail's pace.
so as you say that, it just made me think of something too. Uh, so they're putting this on the local judges who are trying cases of criminals, I wonder if it's by design. Like, okay, you need to add this extra thing to your plate. We want you to focus on good people looking to pass you pass muster and get a pistol license, and along with all the bad people you have to go and actually see in court and levy. So, are they going to be overtaxed where they can't put as much good judicial, work into the bad people in court? I don't know. It's just like bail reform, New York State bail reform, same concept. They're throwing all the money towards letting people out of jail. Don't let them stay in jail. They can't be remanded. I get it, due process, but put the money towards courts. Put the money, hire more judges so they can process these cases faster, so people do have due process. They're not in jail more than a day. They get locked up. The next day they go see the judge, and then boom, they're out. If the judge grants them release based on the crime. But it's far, far down the rabbit hole here in New York, and it's just getting worse and worse. And this is evidence. So if we don't get a new governor coming up in November, or we don't get this a stay on this law that they just passed on Friday, then it's going to be I'm going to pick up my house and move it to Florida or something.
There you go. Well, and I do want to throw a plug in for my employer, Second Amendment Foundation, because we are involved in lawsuits all over the place, and we're going for more. There are gears being wound up right now for lawsuits all throughout the nation. I know that there's lawsuits planned for places like New York, New Jersey, Hawaii, and other places like that. So I would like to encourage you, if you are not a member of SAF, go to saf.org/join. It's only $150 for a lifetime membership. And these lawsuits are not free. Even if the attorneys donate their time, it still costs money to make these lawsuits go forward. The lawyers themselves may donate time, but they still have staff they have to pay. They still have, just the paperwork costs of these federal lawsuits are ridiculous. I was talking with an attorney last year that was involved in filing a federal lawsuit, and just on the district level, it's $25,000 to $50,000 in printing costs to file a lawsuit. So yeah, it's a stupid amount of money. If you're not a member of SAF, please join. We are doing our best, and lawsuits are how we're going to make our rights come back, and we need your help by a membership. So, excuse me.
I second that.
Let's go ahead and move on to our next story, and this is almost a good news story, man. Philly mayor says he wants Philadelphia to be more like Canada. This past weekend there was a shooting at a parade. There was only 2 people injured. They were both police officers. And with the Philadelphia mayor standing outside the hospital where 2 police officers were treated for gunshot injury. The mayor told a group of reporters that only police officers should be allowed to own guns, and he's looking forward to retiring so he no longer has to deal with gun violence. I'm going to quote the mayor here. "It was a chilled back day, beautiful weather, but we live in America. We have the Second Amendment, and we have the Supreme Court of the United States telling everybody they can carry a gun wherever they want," he said. The mayor said he recently visited Canada and remarked that the gun violence did not once cross his mind. "I was in Canada 2 weeks ago, never thought about a gun," he said. "The only people I knew had guns in Canada were police officers. That's the way it should be here," he stated. Before saying such an idea was never going to happen in his lifetime. Mayor, if you're looking forward to retiring, I will guarantee you there's a lot of gun owners in your city that are looking forward to you retiring as well.
For sure. That's crazy. You want to be more like Canada, eh? I've done training with law enforcement all over the country, and a lot of times I'll come down and do the training, and I tell you, they're at a disadvantage because of what they can do and can't do up there, because it is so criminal centric. We want to be more like Canada. Move to Canada. Feel free to move to Canada, Mayor, because we have this thing right here called the Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
And they do have bears up there in Canada, and our Second Amendment does have the word bear in it, but that ain't the type of bear our founding fathers are talking about. So take your Canada and move up there, Mr. Mayor. That's insane. More like Canada.
Or even
Like,
northern Pennsylvania, where there are bears, but if you want to give up your firearms, you're not going to have a way to deal with them.
sit down and sing Kumbaya with a bear.
Yes. See how well that goes for you.
Yeah.
I do seem to have a problem. I cannot get my broadcast software to pick up comments. So if you're commenting, I'm not seeing it. I'm sorry. Although I did get just now, Pete over at Gun Websites commented. This one just came through, so it's possible now that I'm getting comments. It was just a long hold in the software.
Good afternoon.
But yeah, thanks for
Good
checking in,
afternoon,
Pete.
sir.
Let's go ahead and go to our next story here. The state of Massachusetts, they're going to have, this is another reason why you need to join SAF. Massachusetts has said, well, we're just going to ignore the Supreme Court decision. I'm going to, this is off the Boston Herald story. I'm going to quote the, doggone it.
Where is it?
I'm just going to start this. Following the Bruin decision, licensing authorities can no longer enforce the good reason provision of the Massachusetts law, which allowed license restrictions or denials if an applicant lacked a sufficiently good reason to fear injury to person or property, said Healy and Public Safety and Security Secretary Terrence Reedy's offices in a joint release. However, state officials also said some restrictions within the law do still apply, specifically the provision that allows chiefs to determine if a person is suitable for a firearm. I would strongly encourage you folks in Massachusetts, go back and read the Bruin decision. That is not allowed.
I kind of wonder when I hear stuff like this, and what our governor here in New York did. They definitely have to be doing this, hoping that nobody has the desire or the finances to push it back up the chain to the other courts. Because what else is there? Like, let's just throw this law here. We know it's unconstitutional, but let's see if they, if they can afford the time and the money to put it forward all the way up to the Supreme Court. And if they do, then we'll concede, like the governor here in New York did. Or if they don't, or if we concede, we'll still come up with some law and then put them through more financial heartache. It should be criminal, right? I mean, isn't it? Like,
at some point, we have to be able to punish the states, because you can't be much more clear than they were in the Bruin decision. And so at some point we need to be able to say, okay, Massachusetts, you're no longer a state. You're going to now be Massachusetts. You're going to be East Pennsylvania. And it just.
Yes. East Pennsylvania. I like that. Or New York. Just call it.
Yeah. New York, you're going to be South New Hampshire.
Yeah, I like that. By the way, I want to second. I feel actually kind of bad, but I'm going to be a little humbled here, and I'm going to say that I wasn't a member of the Second Amendment Foundation, but as of a few seconds ago, I am now a life member. So anybody out there listening and watching, chip it in, because helping out with organizations like SAF is just going to help us win our rights back even more. So we have the Supreme Court that can do it now. Let's not waste the time, and let's fund these organizations like SAF that definitely are making strides and pushing things to the Supreme Court, things that matter. This was a big case here with they just went through with the Bruin, NYSERPA and Bruin. So fund them, give them the funds they need. There's only so much they can do without money.
Yeah, well, and first of all, Matt, I very much appreciate that. But yeah, if we need members to make sure we have the funding to get these. I'll just about guarantee you, if Massachusetts holds this line, they're going to court, and we're going to be at least part of the team pushing them to court. So
I
Yeah,
like you saying that. I like you saying part of the team, because part of the team, being able to pool resources, attorneys, funds, and stuff like that, time obviously is important. Just like the Bruin decision with NRA and NYSERPA. So kudos.
and then one. This is definitely it has the possibility to be huge good news, but it's very early. Last story. This one caught my eye this morning. There is a lawsuit going forward in Wisconsin
Yes.
where lawyers for Matthew Hoover, a Wisconsin gun dealer whose YouTube channel has 148,000 subscribers, have asked U.S. District Judge Marsha Morales Howard to
Oh.
dismiss his January indictment with the Clay County uh, uh, resident Christopher Irvin, who was charged last year with selling illegal machine gun conversion equipment online. Hoover's lawyers asked Howard last week to rule that the National Firearms Act, a 1934 law that restricted machine gun ownership by creating a tax and a license requirement on them, conflicts with the Constitution's Second Amendment guarantee of a right to bear arms. They argued the law violates the standards the Supreme Court used last month to decide a New York law
Mhm.
on gun ownership was unconstitutional, so the federal law must be unconstitutional as well. Matt, I've
Rah,
heard a
rah.
lot of people say that the 1934 Gun Control Act, and I agree, is unconstitutional. I've said
I
for a
agree.
long time we got to work our way back to it, but here we go, bang, right out of the
Yeah.
gate. After the Bruin case,
Mm.
we've got somebody challenging the 1934 Gun Control Act.
Yeah. I'm excited. I was actually going to, July 1st, I was going to apply for my SOT. I've got a Type 7 FFL, so I was going to get that. And maybe now I'll wait and see where it goes, because I want to convert my Tommy gun back there and a couple other guns into full auto. And I was like, yeah, well, let me get my SOT so I can do that legally. But with all the scrutiny that the ATF and the federal government's putting down on FFLs currently, with all the restrictions and things they have to do now, I was actually contemplating recently just getting rid of my FFL because of the headache that they're putting on it.
Okay. SOT, for those of us who aren't really good on the federal alphabet soup of acronyms.
Yeah, sales occupancy tax, I think it is. It's a bad tax stamp. So you got to be able to, you pay 500, or I think it's 500 or $1,000 annually, and that allows you to deal in full auto, short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, suppressors, stuff like that.
Okay.
So the fun stuff, the stuff that the government banned a long time ago to the average citizen.
Yeah, banned in 1934 and then rebanned in the 1980s, the late 1980s, when they said no machine guns can be owned by regular people that were made after, I think it was 1984 was the cutoff date for new machine guns, new designs on machine guns. So
when I was in the Army back in the 90s, we had 3-round burst. My time frame, they went from full auto to 3-round burst, back to full auto to 3-round burst. They just kept moving every time they did a new one. M1A1, M1A2, M4. They changed it, but they realized that 3-round burst is going to be a little bit better than semi-auto, but full auto is just too much to handle. It's not accurate. You're wasting ammo. Right, there's a safety issue with that, so it's more of anything. It's more fun than it is really something that you're going to use, unless it's strapped to a tank. That's about it's about one of the things that it could be beneficial for in war. But the average person, it's not. Other than fun, what else are you going to do it for? I'm not going to do that to go rob a bank. Not that I'm going to rob a bank.
Yeah, I had an opportunity here a few weeks ago. I think it was probably like 3-4 weeks ago. I, for the very first time, got to fire a Glock Model 18 and the full auto, version of the 17. Yep. And you know what? That actually really, really surprised me how much muzzle rise you get out of a 9mm.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I'll always tell people when I shoot a 9, I got my stance, and then if I go to a 45, I feel it rocking me, and then I go to a full auto, and it's like, whoa. So you got to lean into it even more. From 9 to 45 to full auto, it's definitely it's explosion after explosion, one right after another.
I will tell you
fun.
this:
if anybody has Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a blast. If you don't want to shoot the ceiling, you are limiting yourself to about a 3 to 4 round burst, because as soon as you hit that trigger, it's, and I had a shoulder stock, and I had a forward grip on it, and as soon as you hit that trigger, it was, and you were like, I better hold right there. So and
I love doing it at SHOT Show.
And it was fast enough. If you were just to hold your trigger down on a full mag, that thing would be gone in less than 3 seconds.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I love full auto burst.
Yeah, full auto is greater than burst, is what Pete says. So, yeah, I'd be willing to go with either. I've got an AR. I've played around with bump stocks, and I would say that if we were to be able to go back to full auto and get the parts that would convert your AR to full auto, I would probably go with burst myself, simply because I'm not a rich man and I don't know. I don't want to burn that much ammo that quickly.
Well, that's a good point. In this day and age, right? Before COVID, we'd be like, yeah, full auto. But I mean, if you're looking at the the use of it for fun versus the use of it for actual efficiency, I'd say 3-round burst is going to be more of an efficient way to use it, because you're not going to get as much muzzle rise, and it doesn't take as much experience and such. But with full auto, in my mind, is just fun as heck.
Yeah.
YouTube channels and such are made from full auto, just shooting full auto guns or melting them down like Eric does.
Yeah, and again, I'm not a very rich man, so I don't know how many barrels I'm going to want to replace, and the ammo that's going to cost to.
Oh my!
Yeah, so
you got to get an ammo sponsor and a barrel sponsor. That's what you need.
Get in tight with those people down at Brownells, I guess.
Yeah. Sure.
So we're getting down towards the bottom of the hour, Matt. Before we take off, man, I got to have you talk about Meet the Pressers and about some of the training you do, if you would.
For sure. So Meet the Pressers, meetthepressers.com. We've interviewed hundreds of people from the past 4 years that we've had the show. So check it out. Go to meetthepressers.com. We're on audio and video format, and a lot of the video platforms, as well as a lot of the audio platforms. And Clint Macro, my co-host, and Clint's doing the production side of it. So right now I'm doing guest co-hosts, and they're bringing on a slew of individuals. A lot of them are surrounding now right around the laws and the court cases and such, which is pretty cool, because we're trying to get people educated on that. And then the training, PSNed, my training company, I do instructor all around the country. So I'll do instructor training, UTM, Force on Force certified instructors, Saber Red certified instructors, NRA, USCCA. And as of September, I'll be one of 6 or less TASER civilian instructors that'll be traveling the country teaching that course as well. And then locally in New York and anywhere, but typically in New York, I do all the end user stuff. So I teach about 90 different types of classes, about 300 times a year, all over the country.
Very cool. I want to get up a comment that just came in here real quick.
Cool.
Pete says, removal of the NFA allows for simple things like a Derringer that shoots both barrels and new options for innovations in gun technology. Yep. Another thing it would do that I am very, very much a fan of would be allowing short-barreled rifles and short-barreled shotguns. This 16-inch requirement, man, that's why 16, not 15 and a half, not 14. I mean, if you go north to Canada, they've got stupid laws up there, but you can have an 11-inch barrel.
Yeah. You can get that out quicker for bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's the technology. It's stifled. Well, we do have some good new technology coming out, right? Micro stamping. I say that tongue in cheek, kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, really.
Biometric.
Yeah, those are two, and please don't get me started on biometric. I know a little bit about it, enough to know that we're a good 50 years away from reliable biometrics. So,
Yeah,
um,
for sure.
And then Gun Websites also says, enjoying the collaboration that you're doing with Riding Shotgun with Charlie for the series of interviews. So
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I'm good to see you on there too. It's always cool to see repetitive people coming on there. Yeah, I was just trying to find a way to do live. I mean, I commend you, Paul, and other people that are doing live shows, because when Clint Macro and I started Meet the Pressers, our thought was, well, we don't want to do live because we really don't have a following, and we kind of want to see how we work together. If we pre-recorded it, we could say, that sucked, delete it, re-record it, take this out, take that out, put a picture over this, hey, I was coughing at that time. But the live stuff is like, you're all open. You're all exposed as far as that kind of stuff. So it's, sometimes I like my anonymity. So Charlie and I collaborated, and it's fun. It's a fun show.
I love working without a net. I really do. The immediate feedback that I get doing this is absolutely priceless, and I very much believe it's an integral part of the show. I believe you viewers are as much a part of the show as the commentators I bring on to help me talk about the news. So thank you, as well as thank you, Matt. So I think that is going to wrap it up for us today. What I do want to remind everybody is we've got a show tomorrow. Tomorrow's Alex Uli, or no, I'm sorry, tomorrow's not legal. We did legal last Friday. Tomorrow is Training Friday with Tom Walls of the Firearms Academy of Saddle. We're going to be talking a little bit about how do you pick your firearms trainer? Who can you tell who's a good trainer to go to for training? Here's a hint. One of them's right here on the screen with me. Another way another thing we're going to be talking about tomorrow is, do you need to train up if you're going to be going to classes? So we're looking to get into that tomorrow. Come join us 5 p.m. Central Time. Until then, everybody, thanks for watching. Podcast listeners, thanks for listening. And we'll see you next time.